So today we're talking about internet safety and being cyber smart. So around the world, online activities are becoming more and more important and more a part of our daily life. So people are sending emails, connecting with their families, using resources that are sometimes only online, or even just for entertainment purposes, watching videos and stuff. So this is about how to keep safe, how to make sure that we're making sure our privacy is protected online, and kind of what that all is about. So this is a video on internet safety. It's a really good explanation of what the internet is.
What is the internet?
The internet is like a popular thing.
Some satellites up there.
I picture in my head with like waves of internet going to the phone.
Somebody told me a cloud once.
The internet is a lot like plumbing. It's always moving.
Most people don't have any idea where the internet came from, and it doesn't matter. They don't need to. It's sort of like asking who invented the ballpoint pen or the flush toilet or, the zipper. These are all things we just use every day, and we don't even think about the fact that one day somebody invented them. So the internet is just like that. Many, many years ago, in the early 1970s, my partner Bob Kahn and I began working on the design of what we now call the internet. It was a result of another experiment called the ARPANET, which stood for Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. It was a Defense Department research project. Paul Barron was trying to figure out how to build a communication system that might actually survive a nuclear attack. So he had this idea of breaking messages up into blocks and sending them as fast as possible in every possible direction through the mesh network. So we built what eventually became a nationwide experimental packet network, and it worked. Is anybody in charge of the internet?
The government controls it.
Elves, obviously elves.
The people who control the Wi-Fi, because then no Wi-Fi, no internet. T-Mobile, Xfinity,
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. Right?
The honest answer is, well, nobody, and maybe another answer is everybody. The real answer is that the internet is made up of an incredibly large number of independently operated networks. What's interesting about the system is that it's fully distributed. There's no central control that's deciding how packets are routed or where pieces of network are built or even who interconnects with whom. These are all business decisions that are made independently by the operators. They are all motivated to assure that there is end-to-end connectivity of every part of the network, because the utility of the net is that any device can communicate with any other device, just like we want to be able to make phone calls to any other telephone in the world. There's nothing like this that has ever been built before. The idea that what you know might be useful to somebody else or vice versa is a very powerful motivator for sharing information. By the way, that's how science gets done. People share information. So this is an opportunity for people to think up new applications, maybe program them as apps on a mobile phone, maybe become part of the continued growth of the infrastructure of the network to bring it to people that don't have access to it yet, or just make use of it on a day-to-day basis. You can't escape from contact with the internet, so why not get to know it and use it?
So that was our video on what the internet is. Does anyone have any questions about it? Does it kind of make sense what it is? Like a network of, it's an online network.
So it travels by wires then, or how does it? That's why I can't figure out how the information actually gets transferred.
Yeah, so Trish was asking about how the information is transferred. So we have a network, it's called the cloud. That's just
wires though, or
it's not wires, it's all wireless. Some of it can be wired. You might see a system that is wired like this one. If you see those things on the walls, those are wires running through and connecting everything in the room. But essentially, the internet is wireless.
So how does the information go through the air?
Yes, that's a very good question and very technical that I can't answer, unfortunately. No, that's okay. I'm not an expert, right? I'm just doing the research and then presenting it so that you guys don't have to. And so we're learning a bit more about the internet. So kind of what it is, not really, unfortunately, how that exactly that works with this intricate system online and in the web and that, but kind of how to protect ourselves and what we can do in that area.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about, right? Because if you don't have an outside limit for it, then how can you actually protect yourself? That's exactly what I'm concerned about.
Yes, that's a very good question. So we'll just go into how we're using the internet first. So we can use it for education. So I know with schools happening again, a lot of people are wondering how they're going to do that, and one of the solutions is online. So I know university students are having their classes moving online. Even people who aren't in school can use it for education, to find a definition, to do research, and do that without ever leaving your home. So it is accessible for a lot of people. We also use it for communication, so keeping in touch with our loved ones. It could be via email, social media, sending videos and pictures, or like through face-to-face on live camera. We could use it to find out information, so where we can watch a movie or where there's a live performance, make a reservation at a restaurant, so making things a little bit easier in that way. Some people also use it for their finances, so using it to bank or transfer funds. They can buy and sell things on the internet, and you can even deposit checks electronically now, so don't even have to go to the bank anymore. We can also use the internet for recreation, so playing games. We can watch movies online now, taking virtual tours. There's a lot of great places allowing us to take virtual tours, like museums, zoos, so fun things like that. And we can also use it for resources. So there are some resources that are accessible online, like some of you might have heard of those counseling programs like Ability CBT or Help Next Door, which is a program that sets up volunteers to help out with people in community for any tasks that they kind of apply for online. So those are some things that the internet can be used for. But what can happen when you're online?
Somebody can know what you're doing.
Exactly, people might know what you're doing. There's a lot of things like cybercrime that happens in Canada. So what cybercrime is, it's when people hack into online networks to steal information and sometimes commit criminal activities online, like fraud, identity theft, or scams, which I might add is something that can also happen when you're not online, right? So we have to be careful and cautious at all times when we're using and talking about our sensitive personal information, right? So what cyber criminals do is they take advantage of any error or vulnerabilities in software, so like the systems online, or the hardware, so the actual computer and its monitors and the parts inside, or human behavior, so the mistakes we make, like telling someone our SIN, or, Gladys brought up an example where you're on Facebook and they ask you to do quizzes and they ask you some personal information like what was the name of your first pet, what's your favorite color, and things like that people can actually use to answer your security questions, open your email, access your bank accounts, and it can just snowball into something bigger than you thought, right? So always be sure to be cautious of what you're sharing on the internet and who has access.
I thought the only way for me to get into the password was saying no, then you just have to.
There are a lot of other ways, which we will talk about.
Okay.
That's a great question, though, Trish. So top tips from the government for what you can do is use a different user ID and password combination for different accounts that you have. So if you have a Twitter, having a different username for that than your Instagram and your Facebook or your email. So making sure your applications and your system are also up to date can prevent potential attacks. Downloading from trusted sources always helps to make sure that you're making sure you're protected, and making sure your private profiles on the internet are set to private. And you can also report cybercrime to the government. So if your bank accounts or credit cards are affected, you can make sure to inform those providers. You can also contact Service Canada if you have any identification that's been affected. And you can contact Canada's main credit reporting agencies to have fraud alerts placed on your file. And you can also file a police report.
So sorry, banks, Service Canada, what was the other?
Banking, Service Canada, Canada's credit reporting agencies, and the police.
Okay, yeah.
So what are the type of internet scams that you might come across today? So Trish, this is kind of the examples of ways that people can access your information without your password, like even more than what you think, right? So there's fake shopping. So some cyber thieves might create fake websites where you make a purchase with all of your information, your address, your name, your phone number, your credit card details, and then what do they do with that information? They don't send you a product or an item. They steal that information. So that's one way. There's also impersonation. So if you have an account like Facebook, sometimes people will look at your friends list, make a copy of an account of a person who was your friend. So say I had a Facebook, somebody could make a copy of Trish's account and then ask me for money or ask me for my information, and I might give it to them. So this is just making sure you always know who you're talking to. And if you ever believe your account was ever hacked or your information was at risk, you can change your password and contact Facebook and they'll do an investigation. There is also something called phishing, which is one of the most common scams. So someone will send you an email that seems like it's legitimate. So I don't know if you guys have heard of those email scams from the Government of Canada, tax agencies saying that you've got a refund in your email. Those aren't real, right? The Government of Canada doesn't email you for your tax refund. They mail you checks or they direct deposit with your account. So when you put in your information to get that money, that's when they steal that information to use it for things like identity theft, opening bank accounts in your name, or making purchases online.
What does identity theft mean? That's what I don't really they steal who you are. They can't.
Absolutely.
But they can't. You are who you are.
In name only, right? So if I was going to commit identity theft,
Right.
what I would do is I would take your name, put my picture with your name and your address, put all my bank accounts in your name,
Okay.
make bank accounts in your name, have them all charged to your accounts, and if there was ever a problem, they would go to you, not me, because you're the real Trish.
Right.
Right. So that's how that works. So they just completely steal who you are and all your information to use it for their own purposes. Yeah. It's very complex stuff sometimes. You never know who to trust on the internet. So that's kind of what this presentation is about. Making sure we protect ourselves from scam. So what you can do is, if you ever are the victim of a scam, you can file a complaint or contact customer service. You can make sure to set up security features like a two-factor authentication system. So what that means is you have a password, and then you also have a phone number, which you are contacted for another passcode to enter whatever account you're looking for, or you can use fingerprint scanning. There's also face scanning available now. So those are some security systems that people might use. Don't respond to scam messages. So there are also like emails you get from a prince in Nigeria who wants you to send him $1 million. Don't bother responding to those, right? That's the best thing you can do is ignore it, trash it. And don't trust unsolicited phone calls or emails. So is the online world more dangerous than the real world? We're going to look at some myths and what the fact is. So identity theft usually happens on the internet. Do we think that's true?
No.
Yeah? Online theft actually only accounted for 11% of identity theft in 2009. So identity theft can happen in a couple of different ways. There were some good examples brought up in our group yesterday, but when you're at a banking machine like an ATM, sometimes people set up cameras so they can see your code. But not telling you guys this to scare you, just to be aware of what's happening around you, right?
But if you put your hand over it,
Then they can't see. Exactly.
which is what I usually try to
Yes.
do. Okay.
So there are measures you can take like covering that up, but that's just one example.
Okay.
But The fact is that this does happen, and you can take steps to prevent identity theft. So what you can do is defend your own computer with antivirus software or firewalls, which are systems that kind of monitor who is accessing your computer. You can password protect your accounts and your information and your connections at home. Make sure to never share your information with a stranger or someone who could steal your identity, such as your government ID. Never leave your wallet, phone, or laptop unattended. And make sure to create strong passwords that are hard to guess, and make sure not to share them with anyone else. And we'll talk about how to create a strong password later.
So what else is online is only 11%, where is all the theft?
Yeah, so that could occur from someone stealing your ID or someone physically, like in person, taking your information, or going door to door.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if you guys remember, there was in the news, people dressed in Manitoba Hydro costumes going door to door, right? And knocking on people's doors, trying to get into their homes. So things like that.
Watch your mailbox too.
Yeah, if your mailbox, people can check your mail, get your address. There's a lot of information out there that people use as kind of a weapon, right? So we have to do our best to make sure that we're protecting all of that. So here's another myth. You have no control over your information on the internet. So you can take steps to control your information online, and a lot of people do. So you can monitor yourself online by searching for yourself on the internet. I know I do that sometimes to make sure that people who are looking for me only find professional things. You can also apply privacy settings on your social networking sites, and you can make sure to correct online information about yourself that isn't true. So another one we have is making purchases on the internet is risky. So most security experts agree that the risk of fraud is greater with offline purchases. So not really ones that are made online, but there are things that you can do to shop more safely. So you can create strong passwords, consider the reputation of the company or website you're buying from, and avoid making financial transactions online on a shared network or shared computer.
I'm confused that the risk of fraud is greater with online purchases.
So when you're shopping
using cash, how can that be more dangerous than using a computer? It can't.
That's a great question. This is all gathered from the Government of Canada website. I'm just presenting what they've been finding with their research.
Yeah.
But this is what they're saying with what they've researched so far. So the internet and your privacy and what we can do to protect it. So in order to safeguard our privacy, we ask the question, how do we have fun while protecting ourselves online? So 3 things we can do is protect our information, your personal information, protect your computer system, and make sure to use trustworthy sites. So protecting your personal information might look like not sharing any sensitive personal information like your home address, your phone number, date of birth, social insurance number, passwords, and any account numbers. So that's unless you know who you're giving that to. Yes, Marie?
Yeah, when you go on Facebook or something, you can put only you on there, like, nobody else can see it.
Yes, exactly. You can make sure you have your privacy settings on social network sites like Facebook, because all of this information together can be used in a harmful way, right? To steal your identity, open bank accounts, and make those purchases that aren't yours. So how do you protect your computer system? You can shut down your computer when it's not in use, especially if you're in public places. You can use antivirus programs. So some hackers might use viruses to enter your computer network and steal information online, so making sure that you have those antivirus software to protect your computer, and using a firewall on your system to prevent them from accessing them remotely. So making sure you have that security system that monitors. A firewall?
Yeah, firewall.
A firewall is a network security system that monitors your computer.
Yeah.
So it monitors who's accessing your things, and you can take those actions to protect it afterwards.
I think I heard about it.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about some 10 online safety tips for staying safe online. So you can keep your privacy settings on. So that means everyone doesn't need to know your relationship status or your home address. What they do need to know, they can get in touch with you, right? You wouldn't hand this personal information out to strangers individually, so make sure you don't hand it out to people online. The second one is keep information limited. So marketers, hackers, they love to know all about you. So they can learn a lot from your history or your social media usage, but you can take charge of your information. So all of these systems, they have privacy settings. You can make sure that they're on and make sure you have make sure they're enabled on your computer so that those safeguards are up. You can practice safe browsing. So in this example, you wouldn't choose to walk through a dangerous neighborhood, so don't visit dangerous neighborhoods online. Cyber criminals can use those as bait, so they know sometimes people are tempted by content online and then click it, but by resisting that urge, you don't give them the chance.
How do you know what you're dangerous? How do you know that?
Yeah, I can give you an example. So if you look in the top corner here, there's a lock. That means that the connection is secure. So you can check little things like that. And also at the beginning of this, there is an S. The S stands for secure. So HTTPS means it's secure. HTTP means it might not be a trustworthy site. Your computer also does, if you have any software like antivirus software, it will detect if it's an unsafe connection, and it will actually pop up and tell you. And then you can have the choice to proceed or not. Most times, don't proceed if it says it's not safe. So that's a good notification of whether or not you use that. Number 4, you can make sure your internet connection is secure. So when you go online in a public place, you don't really have connection over that security. So make sure that you disconnect and see if you can use a private Wi-Fi server when you can, like the ones you do at home, for example. 5th tip is be careful what you download. So a top goal of cyber criminals is to trick you into downloading programs. So downloading programs or apps that carry things like software that steals your information is what they do. It can be disguised as an app or a game, and if you download it, they're able to steal your information. So make sure you are not downloading apps or going on websites that you don't trust or ones that look suspicious.
So if they all have HTTPS, then you can download it.
Yeah, then it's a secure.
And it does.
Yes, and there are also signs you can look for, like if you're shopping online, it'll say whether it's secure or not. There are also like scam reviews, and if you search up the website and see if it's a scam, there'll be a website that reviews whether it's a scam or not and how trustworthy it is and whether or not people have gotten items from ordering there or not. So there's a couple different options you have when checking if things are secure online.
So it's impossible for somebody to put the HTTPS
Unless it's secure, yeah.
That's an impossible thing to have.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
So choose strong passwords. So we'll talk about making passwords in a little bit, but passwords are one of the biggest weak spots in the whole internet security system. So don't make your password, guys. That's a little too easy. So don't make them ones that are easy to guess, because that's the ones that people can get into. A strong password that's unique and complex to you is one that's best. So when shopping online, make sure you purchase from secure websites. We talked a little bit about secure encrypted connections, which are identified with that padlock, the lock icon on your address bar, which I just showed you guys.
So that means encrypted, that lock?
Yes, so that it's secure.
And that's ENCRYP2.
That's right. So our 8th tip is be careful what you post. So the internet does not have a delete key. So whatever you post, you can't take back. So whatever, you say online is stored up there, so you don't wanna, you wanna make sure that you're not putting anything online that you wouldn't want someone else to see, like your mom.
You can't, because there's deletes, and so once you delete, it doesn't take it away, actually, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like once you press delete, it might be gone off your Facebook wall or
Yeah.
something, but it's still stored in a network somewhere. All that information is being stored in a network called the cloud, right? It's wirelessly stored. It's a lot of information, I know.
So it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
All the rest.
Yeah, the internet is a vast space.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And number 9, be careful who you meet online. People are not always who they claim to be. They might not even be real. So make sure that you're cautious when you are in your personal life and in your online life. And number 10 is keep your antivirus programs up to date. So I know these programs can get a little annoying because they have updates all the time, but that's actually a good thing because they're making sure that they're staying up to date with what's going on in the internet kind of world, right? So now we're gonna do some true and false because you guys are so good at that. So we'll start with number 1. It's okay to give your credit card information in an email if the store you were shopping at online asks for it again. False, Trish says false. Anyone else?
What do you think, Dennis?
No.
No. You are right. If you receive an email from a store you recently shopped at and they're requesting your information again, that's probably because a hacker or someone who shouldn't be accessing that information is phishing. So
what if you really, really want the thing you're gonna purchase, you just have to have it, what's gonna happen? Someone else is gonna get it, you better get it quick.
oh yeah, no, that's fine, like you're making your purchase online. But if that store emails you again asking for your credit card information, even though you've already made the purchase, you don't need to give them your credit card information again. If you think it really is them, make sure to give that website a call and confirm before you actually give any more information after you've made a purchase already. Because that should be already stored with that store. They don't need that information again, it's probably not them. So that's all we're trying to make sure that you're not giving information when you don't need to. So you can report that to customer service if you notice that as soon as possible.
You have to also make sure that the page that you're on or that the place that you're speaking to is the actual thing. So they'll actually make a false page and people will
exactly
apply to that false page and give their information to that.
Exactly.
So how do you know whether it's false or not?
So one example is if, say, Shoppers Drug Mart, you just made a purchase from them, they're emailing you again to ask for more information from you. One thing to check is who's sending that email. If it says at Shoppers Drug Mart, it's likely them. You can call to confirm. But if it says at a bunch of random numbers and letters, which is usually what scammers use so that you can't tell that it's them, it might be labeled Shoppers Drug Mart, but the actual email address is what you have to check. So if the actual email address is just a random name, not from Shoppers Drug Mart, it's probably not them, right? So make sure you're always checking exactly who it's from.
And they can take a picture of the logo of the company
Exactly.
and just put it on that page so that you actually think it's them as well.
Exactly. I'm not gonna lie. I have gotten some emails from Scotiabank that was not Scotiabank, and the only way that I knew it wasn't Scotiabank, my actual bank, is from checking who the email was from. It was just from a bunch of random numbers and letters from an email, so it's obviously not Scotiabank. I called to make sure it wasn't Scotiabank. They were just trying to get more information from me. So always be aware of who you're giving your information to.
So you check the name and the address, is that how you're sure?
Yes, especially if they're like from online purchases or something, and you've already made a purchase and it's not some sort of confirmation.
Right.
They're just asking for more information. It's probably a phishing email. They're phishing for your information.
Oh, check with your bank anyways.
Yeah, is when fraudsters send fake emails to extort money from you, steal your money and information.
So phishing always comes from fraudsters.
So number 2.
The phishing fraud.
Yeah. What did you say, Dennis?
I said they don't always have a fishing rod.
Yeah. No, they don't. They're not as fun. Online fishing is not as fun as real fishing. Number 2, it's all right to give your name, address, and birth date when registering to use a website online. What do you think?
Nope, I wouldn't.
It's a hard no.
Make it.
Well, I'm glad you're shaking your heads, guys, because it's not recommended to give your birthday out online. Most websites usually request this stuff as an option, so you can protect yourself from identity thieves by ignoring this request.
So you never have to give out your birthday?
It's not recommended. You can if you'd like to.
No,
unless
that's fine. So we should never, that's why I just want to.
Unless it's-
I will want to.
unless it's from someone you know, or if it's someone you know is asking for your birthday, you can give it to them. If it's a website that you're not really familiar with, that you're just registering for, they don't need your birthday.
That's what I was wondering, so if you're filling out a form and it asks for your birthday, you can just skip that and you'll be okay.
Usually, they don't, it's
Okay.
usually optional. If it is not, just make sure to check that website and make sure it's legitimate.
Sometimes they'll even have in print, this subject is optional or something like
Yeah, yeah, like it's not required to fill out. Yeah, you're right, Bob. Number 3, it's okay to give out your social insurance number when you're on the internet. Everyone who uses the internet has access to it anyway.
No, that's not true.
No.
Way to go, Yvette. I could see your name, but I don't see your face.
What was that, the one you were like, don't give out
Your birth date.
your birthday?
Yeah. And don't give out your social insurance number. You never assume that everyone has access to any identifying information online. You should protect your social insurance number and any other identifying information from any prying eyes.
Always phone back if they ask. Just phone back. Get a
Yeah,
phone from them.
usually companies who phone, you should be able to phone back and talk to someone who actually works there. Be extra careful, for sure. So now we're going to talk about creating passwords and making sure that that is secure. So passwords are used to access information stored on a website or a computer. So what you can do to protect your password is make sure that you create a password with a combination of at least 8 letters and numbers, and you can use both uppercase and uppercase and lowercase letters. Longer passwords are harder to decipher, so it is important to remember that in case you're creating a password, you can think of something, a sentence or phrase that's meaningful to you and easy to remember. You can take the first character from each word, alternate uppercase and lowercase letters, and then use some numbers in it.
You get too complicated.
It can
I
get
was just gonna say, I
complicated.
have a question. How do we as brain injured people remember all this? There's
Yeah.
no way.
We got brain injuries, come on.
Yeah, some people have a notebook that they write down all their passwords in, and then you just have to make sure that that's secured safely. Some
Yeah.
people store it on their phones. There's a couple.
Too many address.
Yeah, at this point, everything's a risk. Everything feels like a risk, but you can do what you can to minimize that, right? So avoid the
What did
use
you
of
think?
first. Sorry?
What were you saying, Dennis?
I was saying that because of our brain injuries,
Yes.
it makes it very difficult for us to, well, I mean, even to get onto my computer. I have a computer that I had back in BC, and I brought it
Yeah.
here. It took me 1.5 years to finally figure out what the password was to get into it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why it's important to make them maybe something that's like easily memorable for you only. Maybe it's your favorite song, a combination of letters and numbers.
That's what tattoos in a private place are for.
Yeah, Bob is suggesting just tattoo it on yourself. There you go. You'll never forget it
How do
then.
you access that? Is it in public?
Yeah, okay. Oh God.
Hey, sometimes you gain weight and those tattoos are distorted.
Ah,
Just saying.
Good point.
Another tip is to stay away from number or letter patterns that are easy for people to guess, like 1 2 1 2 1 2, A B C D E F G. And another suggestion that they make is changing your password. So making sure that it's not the same all the time, that you change it every 60 to 90 days. You can vary your password, so don't use the same ones for every account. You can use a password that is different from, make sure to use a password that's different from your name. So if my name, Valerie gave this example yesterday, but if my name is Teddy Bear 67, I'm not gonna make that my password. And don't store your password online.
Okay, Teddy Bear.
It is okay to write all this down.
As long as you store it in a safe space.
Someone's showing you Teddy
I
Bear.
know. It's David. I love the commitment, David, thank you.
Happen to have that handy.
I missed him, didn't
He showed us a teddy bear. I just talked about that as a username, but he showed it in real life. So social networking, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, platforms like that, they all have your personal information on it, but it's like money. So we're asking you to value it and protect it. And make sure you share it with care. So what you post will last forever. So be aware that when you post something online, you are sharing personal details with strangers or friends and family about yourself and others. So post only about others as you would like them to have them post about you. So.
Only and Gloria.
Oh, that was Yvette.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, Yvette. I think that's just her background sound. So own your online presence. It's okay to limit who can see your information and what you share. So make sure to learn about your privacy and security systems settings on your favorite websites.
So how do we do that?
Yeah, you can, on Facebook, there's a whole like privacy and security settings features that you can enable or disable. Like if people are able to find you and search for you, you can disable that. So that's just an example of how you can take charge of that information. You can also lock your devices like your tablet and phone. You lock the door to your front door to your house, so make sure that you do that with your devices as well.
How do you lock your tablet?
Oh, you can set up like a passcode. So whenever you go into your tablet, you have to enter a specific code, and that's when you'll be able to access it somehow.
You can do all those things to protect yourself with your computer.
Yes.
But if you have family members or friends who share that information about you on their computer, it's still out there.
This is true.
It's like a back door.
Absolutely. So that's why we're being mindful of what we're posting, making sure we're not sharing other people's personal things too when we're posting online.
Also, be careful of what you throw in the garbage.
Yeah.
Like physically.
Yeah.
Physically, like I was working at a place and the guy was throwing quotes out. Like quotes he was giving to other people.
Oh, yeah.
And like some of them were into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he threw them in the garbage.
Oh, no.
I don't understand this dangerous code.
Well, you know who the company you work for is, you know who the person and the contact and the other company who he's dealing with. So if you want, you could probably go to another company and say, hey, this guy is selling it for this much. You know, did you want to undercut the price, or did you want to charge more? Or
And a lot of times quotes, they have personal information like your address and phone number on it. So you don't want to give people access to that either.
and also secondary information of other companies who are, you know, supplying stuff. So
Exactly.
there can be a lot of stuff out there you don't even consider,
Exactly, that's right.
and online that you don't consider.
Yeah, so we have to be careful in everything we do, online and in person, right? We're always taking those prevention measures.
Even down to obituaries, because someone passes away, you put family names down, and people can go on there and say, oh, this guy is related to this guy. They can go on down the line, sisters, brothers, mothers, fathers, and fish or pish,
Yeah.
those things, and you can get information on the whole family.
Yeah, so it's a network of things, right?
Yeah.
You have to be careful. So the government of Canada does have a self-assessment for internet safety, and you can kind of see if you've been handling yourself safely online. So that's just an example of some questions they might ask. So
Is this gonna be printed out?
yes, I can print this out for you.
That would be great.
So if you, before you sign up for a website, do you read the privacy settings? you have the same password for all of your accounts, things like that.
And so it's okay then to write down all our passwords and all this stuff that we're doing in a separate book. I mean, it would be in our plate.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're storing that in a safe place where you know where it is and you know it's secure, then
Yeah.
We got brain injuries, we don't know where we put things.
Exactly, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Email address, it gets really.
it's hard to remember,
Yeah.
That's
So
why it
that-
took me a year and a half to get my codes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, I believe that's true.
I use the same password for everything, and then like 6 months later, I change it to another password. So I have the same password for everything, and I don't forget it. And then 6 months later, I do a new one.
Could be an option too. But here's some resources for you guys to look over. Are there any questions or comments? It's okay if there's not. But that, oh,
Screwed up.
sorry, Dennis?
The government has screwed up, the hospitals have screwed up on information that they've thrown into the garbage or given out to people
Yeah,
out there. And
absolutely.
people are getting a hold of it.
Yeah.
It just happened recently with the Revenue Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens all the time with did you say the government, Dennis? Yeah, the government. It happens all the time, right? We have such sensitive information being stored with organizations and things that people we feel like we can trust, and then they mishandle it, right? So it's hard to say.
Time to go back to punch cards.
They can't give us your information. They can't give out your information, that's right. Well, that concludes our Brain Wellness program for today. We're going to take a 15-minute break and we'll come back at 3 o'clock to do our regular. Thanks, everybody.